Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're going to review the new album from Fit for a King titled The Path. So we've listened to this album non-stop for a week straight. I'm going to say that this album is solid. I thought that this album was a really good album for metalcore as a genre. And the reason I say that is because I find that some metalcore albums fall into a common pitfall of having a lot of songs sound the same and having a lot of songs kind of drone out, and you listen to the album and you think, what song is this even? I don't know what's going on. But one of the biggest shining moments of this album is the fact that you can tell what song is what just from hearing it. There's never a point where I'm listening to the album and I'm like, oh, what song was this again? It sounds the same as everything else. Every song has something individual about it that stands out or is unique and different, and I commend the album and the band greatly for that. So overall, it does have a lot of different stuff. Now I'm going to talk about two songs that really jumped out at me throughout the week, and those are the last two, Louder Voice and Vendetta. These two songs really boosted up for me a lot. One specific part of Louder Voice, and this is during the verse when he screams, I see in the distance, it's building resistance, in the really high scream. Not only did I like that because it was a different harsh vocal that you've already heard on the album, but it just sounds so cool to me. I look forward to that every single time that song comes on. And I think that's a sign of a good album. You'll know an album is good when you're really looking forward to certain moments and songs. And at first I was, kind of neutral on the song. In my first impression, I gave it a 6. Mm-hmm. But then over time, that part of the song really started jumping out to me more, and now I actually like that song a lot.
Interesting.
Now Vendetta, I think, is a really cool album closer because you don't see many, a lot of bands, they'll be like, okay, we need an album closer, we're gonna have a big long song with lots of stuff in it, or we're gonna have an ending track that's really
swan song kind of thing.
Yeah, or an ending track that's really calm to whatever. This band goes the opposite direction. They're like, no, we're gonna have a really mean, heavy song, not that long, just hard hitting. And honestly, and I mentioned this, I think, not long after our first impressions, I said that it kind of sounds like a Hatebreed song.
Definitely does.
The way that the vocal rhythms are,
yeah,
and just the way that the groove is as well. I could totally hear Jamie Josta singing over that kind of groove.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's a good point too, the fact that the song, it's not an album closer, it's like they're slamming it closed. They're slamming the door shut. And that song, Vendetta, did actually grow on me, and it's probably one of my top songs. It just goes hard, and it's got so much great energy to it. But I have to disagree with you about Louder Voice. Louder Voice, for me, is one of the weaker songs on the album. Not that I didn't like it, I think all the songs are good. I feel like it's a solid album through and through. But Louder Voice is definitely on the low end, along with Breaking the Mirror. Breaking the Mirror is a little different because I feel like the second half of that song, maybe the third act, if you divide it into 3 sections, is really strong. But the first half is meh. So basically on Breaking the Mirror, the breakdown's really cool, and everything after the breakdown's really cool. So from that point on, the song is great. But before that, I felt like it was just lacking something. Maybe a little bit on the whiny side, which is something on my first impressions. I did say that I'm not the best, I'm not that keen of that whiny emo type of singing, which I'm really pleased that this album doesn't have a lot of. The Louder Voice is another song where that is present. Maybe that's why I don't like it. I will give Louder Voice a little bit of credit though, because it does have some unique things about it, like the piano, which is a unique thing that's on the album. It makes that song stand out and gives it its own identity.
There's also a tiny bit of auto-tune in that song as well that you don't see anywhere else on the album. During the chorus where he says it's happened every time before, you hear a little bit of auto-tune on it, and I always thought that was interesting because you don't see that anywhere else. It's just that specific spot of this one song, so that's really cool.
So as far as the album goes and songs that kind of jumped out at me, there's a few songs that actually jumped out at me. One specifically, the best song on the album for me is God of Fire. That song is so fucking good.
I can agree on that.
The riffs on that song, just the drumming, everything about that song, the structure of it, everything is just excellent. I love it. Add it to my playlist. Can't wait for it. When I'm playing shuffle on my playlist, if that song comes on, I'm turning it up an extra notch. It is a pumping song. Other songs that kind of did that to me, were The Path, which is the title track.
That has a great breakdown.
It has a great breakdown. It's got little pinch harmonics, which I love. I talk about those a lot. That's the thing. Another thing about this album is they do a few pinch harmonics, but they're few and far between, and they're each different.
Yeah.
It's not the same one each time. It's like they're stylistically different each time.
So cool.
Sometimes like a two-tone, sometimes there's one long tone. Really cool stuff. But another really, really good song was Prophet. Prophet grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. This song, it starts off, kind of slow, almost ballady. You think it's gonna be a ballad. Then all of a sudden it picks up and it gets heavy, and then it kind of goes back and forth. It has this duality to it. I really love the style of this song. It just makes it stand out. It's the song with that blast beat that's thrown in there. We just have it just sounds like the band's just kind of going in sync, just unleashing all their energy. I love that. Prophet's an excellent song. And one thing I'll say about this album is a lot of people in the comments wrote, this is a decent album for Fit for a King, but it's not their best. Their last album was way heavier. This album was way heavier. As a music listener, as a metalhead, I don't always judge metal by how heavy it is, how fast it is, how brutal it is. Of course, those three attributes are sought after. I like heavy, I like brutal, I like fast. But it doesn't have to have those things. What I'm looking for mostly is songs that are well constructed. Songs that are put together in a way that don't just sound extremely typical and standard. Songs where they were sitting there in the studio and they went, you know what, we need to do something different at that part to make it sound a little different than this part over here. And I feel like they did this for every single song in this album, and I give them mad props for doing that.
And it's interesting you say that, because those are the exact issues that a lot of metalcore albums and bands will run into when making music.
Exactly, they're formulated.
Exactly.
They find a formula and they just stick with it, and they don't really care to make it sound special. And I think for this album, I'm not familiar with their other albums. Maybe their other albums are better, but this didn't have to be heavier. It didn't have to be faster. It didn't have to be more brutal. What they had here was working for me quite well.
Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting that Prophet of all songs was one that grew on you as much. I was not really expecting you to say that. I can agree with God of Fire. That song is just insane. What's great about that song is, it's heavy, it's crazy, but the riff is also really fun to jam to, and to headbang to, and to dance to, what have you. It's great for that, and it's heavy, disgusting breakdown, like it's got everything. And that's, another big thing for this album, and I guess maybe even with this band, is that the riffs are just great. I can't tell you how many times I'm listening to this album, I'm like, yeah, that's a good riff. Yeah, that's one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yep.
And that's just awesome. Like, there's a lot of really cool stuff with that. I also think the melodies were pretty good on this album too. They were catchy and, nice to hear.
Yeah.
They'd be great live. Like The Path would be a great live song. I could guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like on all fronts this album has a lot of strong points to it.
I agree. And I mean, we talked about a bunch of songs, but just not to take anything away from the songs like Annihilation, Stockholm, and The Face of Hate, which is the intro track. All those songs are great too.
Yeah, I feel like
the Face of Hate is an intro track. I feel like it's got a great build up. The riff in that song is great. It's got that hammer-on pull-off riff, which I love that stuff. It just kicks off the album in an awesome way. And when you're looping the album like I usually do, Vendetta ends and The Face of Hate starts. It's a pretty smooth transition. And it's just like, okay, here we go again. Let's go. Let's get it.
Honestly, I was thinking a similar thing. Like, it felt so natural when the album would loop on itself. Yeah. Didn't feel like there was any disconnection. It's like, all right, round two, let's go. Anyway, with that being said, let's rate this album. I guess I'll rate it first. I think this is a super strong album, and I think it's a pretty standout album as for metalcore goes. I think these guys did a great job keeping the tracks interesting while still having cool metalcore riffs and being heavy as fuck, while also having really nice melodies. It's such a strong package that I think, if you really give it a chance, I think most metalheads can enjoy it just for just how much it has to it. It's getting my toe tag.
Yeah, you make some good points. I think most metalheads, if they actually gave it a chance, would actually enjoy it, because it brings a really good level of energy. And at the end of the day, metalheads want energy, exactly, for the most part. So yeah, I'll give it a toe tag as well. I don't need to really go into too much detail because I pretty much said everything I really need to say about it. I think it does stand out amongst metalcore, which is a kind of a stagnant genre these days. But we're just beating a dead horse by saying that over and over again. But yeah, I was surprised, man. I really didn't think I was gonna like this, and I did. And I think that minus a few small personal gripes, it's well deserving of my toe tag. So yeah, it gets one for me for sure.
And there you go, 2 toe tags for Fit for a King. Honestly, not what we were expecting when this album won the poll.
Yeah.
You know, we heard so many people saying, oh, it's bad, and it's like, you know what? The people saying that, give it a shot. Because we gave it a shot for a week, and we both loved the album. So I'm sure that you will too, if you really give it a shot. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for you today. Remember to like the video if you like it. Comment, tell us in the comments below. The album's been out for a while. What are your thoughts? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Buck, so.
And keep the horns up.